My fiancée demanded I pay rent in my own apartment, claiming it was her property too. I handed her a legal lease and a 3-month deposit. She refused and caused problems, so I kicked her out of my home. Can you imagine this? You're about to marry the love of your life. You've poured your entire being into building your dream home. Paid for every single brick with your own blood, sweat, and ramen noodles. Then, one Tuesday night, she looks you dead in the eye and demands you pay her rent. To live in your own damn house. Seriously, who does that? Look, I'm 32. I work in logistics management. Nothing fancy, but it pays the bills, about $85,000 a year. And I've always been, well, let's just say smart with my money. My friends called me boring for driving my paid-off Chevy with 120,000 miles on it, or for bringing my lunch to work every day. But my bank account absolutely loved me for it. I'm the guy who reads the fine print on every single contract. 6 years ago, I poured my soul and every spare dime into buying this 2-bedroom apartment. It wasn't some luxury pad. Believe me, it was stuck in a time warp. The kitchen screamed 1997 with its oak cabinets, and the bathroom? Oh, the salmon pink tiles were a glorious tribute to 1983. But the bones were good, and the price? Perfect. I snatched it up for $185,000 when similar places were going for $210,000. For the next year, this place was my obsession, my personal project. I spent weekends ripping out old carpet with my dad, laying down laminate. I practically lived in that kitchen, gutting it, installing crisp white shaker cabinets, granite countertops I snagged on sale. That nightmare salmon bathroom? I took a sledgehammer to it myself. Yes, a sledgehammer. Learned basic plumbing from YouTube and sheer, bloody stubbornness. Every single penny, every bonus, every tax refund went straight to that mortgage. My friends were off buying jet skis, sipping cocktails in Cancun, leasing brand new trucks they couldn't afford. Me, I was doubling my mortgage payments, eating ramen and chicken breast, and feeling like the smartest guy in the room. They all thought I was absolutely insane. Then, 3 years ago, something truly significant happened. My grandfather, a man I loved deeply, passed away after a quick battle with cancer. He left me a modest inheritance, around $40,000 after everything. Most people, they'd blow that on a new car or a year-long backpacking trip through Europe. Me, I walked straight into the bank with a cashier's check and paid off my mortgage. Completely. Every last penny. The day I got that final payoff statement showing a zero balance, my property owned free and clear. I framed it. It hangs in my home office, right above my desk, a constant reminder. That feeling? Complete ownership. No bank, no landlord, just me. It's hard to put into words, but it's pure, unadulterated financial security. At 29 years old, I own my home outright. That's not bragging. That's just a fundamental fact of my life. Now, Amy, my fiancée. We'd been together 2 years, engaged for 3 months. We met through mutual friends at a 4th of July cookout. She's an admin assistant, makes about $42,000 a year. Seemed like a nice girl, pretty, got along great with my family. Things progressed at a comfortable, stable pace, none of that rushing into things nonsense. She moved in about 14 months ago. The arrangement? It seemed perfectly fair. I own the place free and clear, so why would I charge her rent? That made no sense. Instead, she covered utilities and groceries, roughly 40% since I earn more. About $400 to $500 a month. It worked. Our routine was easy. I'd make coffee. She'd cook a few nights a week. Weekends were for meal prep, movies, family visits. It was comfortable, stable, the kind of relationship that doesn't give you butterflies, but more importantly, it never gave me headaches. We barely fought. She never complained about money, never pushed for expensive gifts. I genuinely never felt taken advantage of. Until last Tuesday, I was on the couch, lost in a Celtics game. It was a nail-biter, 98-98 with 3 minutes left in the fourth. Then Amy walked in. She'd been out with her sister, Rachel. And if you know Rachel, you know she's a walking, talking advice column for everyone else's life, even though her own is a constant dumpster fire. Twice divorced by 35, Job hopping, always a new crisis. But hey, she's family, right? The second Amy stepped through the door, I felt it. That cold dread. That we need to talk look that instantly drops your stomach to your shoes. She didn't say hi, didn't ask about my day. Just marched straight into the living room. Picked up the remote and muted the TV. The Celtics game. She sat there, across from me, hands clasped, staring. For 10 agonizing seconds, she just stared. And that's when I knew. Amy fidgets. Always. Phone, hair, clothes, tapping foot. But when she goes completely, unnervingly still like that, something huge is about to drop. I've been thinking about our living situation, she began, her voice eerily calm, perfectly measured. Rehearsed. I just waited, because nothing good, absolutely nothing, ever follows that line in a relationship. This is my home, too. I've been living here for over a year. I have rights. Rights? I was genuinely lost. Rights to what, Amy? To this apartment, to equity, to security. I've been contributing to this household. And I deserve recognition. I was utterly baffled. You don't pay rent, Amy. You cover some groceries and half the electric bill. What equity are you even talking about? That's when she crossed her arms, a telltale sign the Rachel script was fully engaged. That's precisely my point, she snapped. I've been giving you free labor. Cooking, cleaning, emotional support, managing our social calendar, coordinating with families. That has real monetary value. I've decided I'm charging you rent now. $800 a month. It's only fair. I actually genuinely laughed out loud. I thought she was pulling some kind of prank, maybe a TikTok challenge Rachel had cooked up. She wasn't laughing. Not one bit. I'm completely serious, she insisted, her voice hardening. Rachel says I'm basically subsidizing your entire lifestyle by not demanding financial compensation. If you hired someone to do what I do, you'd pay them way more than $800. This is my apartment, too, and you need to start paying me for the privilege of living here. Okay, let me just pump the brakes right there, because I need to clarify something crucial. Amy doesn't cook. Not really. She'd make a protein smoothie, sure, maybe a basic sandwich. But actual cooking? I did 70% of it minimum. Meal prepping for the week, dinners, weekend breakfasts. She'd help sometimes, chopping veggies, setting the table, but that was it. And cleaning? She'd run the vacuum once a week if I was lucky. Wipe the counters occasionally. I did the bathrooms every week because the chemicals bothered her sensitive skin. I did all the floors. I did the deep kitchen clean because, I was the one cooking. And emotional support, relationship management, that's called being in a relationship. That's what partners do. I listened to her work drama, remembered her family's birthdays, helped her pick out gifts. She did the same for me. That's not labor you charge for. That's basic human connection. Partnership. Let me get this perfectly straight, I said slowly, making sure every single word sank in. You want me to pay you $800 a month to live in my own apartment? The apartment I personally own, that I paid off 3 full years before I ever even met you. She didn't flinch. It's our apartment now. I live here full-time. I have established tenant rights at this point. And yes, you should absolutely be compensating me financially. Rachel showed me multiple articles about this. Oh, Rachel. Of course. That's when something just snapped. I pulled out my phone, opened my notes app, and started typing. Date, exact time, her exact words. Interesting business proposal, I said, looking up at her. I'll definitely need to think about this carefully. She actually smiled. A little smirk, like she'd just won. Then she walked off to the bedroom, probably to text Rachel about her victory. I just sat there. The basketball game was still muted, the score frozen. My fiancée, the woman I'd asked to marry me 3 months ago with a $6,000 ring. She had just demanded I pay her rent. In my own home. The home I'd bled for, worked my tail off for, painstakingly rebuilt with my own 2 hands. The home I'd sacrificed everything to pay off early. She had no idea, absolutely no idea what she had just started. The very next morning, at 8 a.m. sharp, I called my friend Trevor. We'd started law school together, but I quickly realized I hated the theoretical stuff and switched to business. Trevor, though, he stuck with it, passed the bar, and now specializes in real estate law, landlord-tenant disputes, property contracts, evictions. The guy knows his stuff cold. I laid out the whole insane story, every detail. The demand for rent, Rachel's obvious poison, the tenant rights claim. Every single word I'd noted on my phone. Trevor listened. Then he erupted. A deep, genuine belly laugh that went on for a solid 30 seconds. The kind you can't fake. She wants to charge you rent in your own property? The one you own free and clear, he gasped, still laughing. That's genuinely the most creative thing I've heard all year. And I deal with ridiculous situations every day. So, what are my actual legal options here? I asked, trying to keep a straight face. Well, he said, snapping into full attorney mode, legally, she's what we call a tenant at will. No written lease, no specified term. She's essentially living there at your discretion. But because she's been there over a year and gets mail, she does have basic tenant rights. So no, you can't just change the locks tomorrow and dump her stuff on the curb. That's an illegal eviction and she could sue you. My heart sank for a second. But here's the beautiful part, he continued, and I could hear the smirk in his voice. If she wants to make this a formal business arrangement, you can absolutely make it a formal business arrangement right back. A legitimate lease agreement. Market rate. First month, last month, security deposit. If she wants to play landlord-tenant games, she plays by the real rules, the legal ones, not whatever TikTok nonsense her sister showed her. A slow smile crept onto my face. And if she refuses to sign, then you give her proper notice to vacate, usually 30 days. If she still doesn't leave, you file for formal eviction. With your documentation of her absurd demands and refusal of a reasonable lease, you'd win that case easily. Judges have zero patience for people trying to game the system. How much do I owe you? I asked. Nothing, he chuckled. This is pure entertainment. I'm telling this story at the Bar Association meeting next month. Just keep me updated. Trevor drafted that lease that afternoon. He sent me the first complete version by 3:30 p.m. It was a masterpiece, a standard, professional residential lease agreement for a 2-bedroom apartment, specific to our building. He even pulled comps. 2 units listed at $3,400, another at $3,350. To be completely fair and utterly defensible, he priced mine at a conservative $3,200. First month's rent, last month's rent, full security deposit $9,600 total due at signing. All the standard clauses. Wear and tear modifications, guest policies, noise restrictions, maintenance responsibilities. And then there was this gem, a specific clause about personal property. Tenant acknowledges that certain electronics, furniture, and personal items currently in the unit are the exclusive property of the landlord and are not included as part of this rental agreement. This was pure Trevor. He knew me too well. He knew exactly the kind of PlayStation-related drama I was anticipating. This is absolutely beautiful, I told him, genuinely impressed. Genuinely perfect. And then I added a clause. No guest may stay in the unit for more than 48 consecutive hours without explicit prior written approval from landlord. Just in case Rachel decided to move in. You're an evil genius, you know that, I said. He just laughed. I prefer the term thorough attorney. Has a much better ring to it. I printed 3 pristine copies on premium paper, slipped them into a proper manila envelope, and called Donald. Donald, my professional process server. The guy's been doing this for 20 years. He's seen everything. When I explained the context, he chuckled. Your fiancée tried to charge you rent in your own place? Ouch. He said he could serve it Friday evening for $75. Perfect. For 3 days I played it cool. Acted completely normal. Let Amy think I was genuinely considering her ridiculous demands. She was already openly planning how she'd spend her rent money, new clothes, a trip to Miami with Rachel, a new iPhone. I made sure to be conveniently in the bathroom when the doorbell rang at exactly 6:47 p.m. that Friday. Can you get that? I called out, timing it perfectly. From behind the closed door, I heard Donald's crisp, professional voice. Amy Patterson? Yes, that's me. You've been served. Have a good evening, ma'am. I emerged 10 seconds later, casually wiping my hands, just in time to see her frozen in the doorway, the thick, yellow manila envelope clutched in her hands like a ticking bomb. Donald was already halfway down the hall, a true professional. She stared at it. What is this? She whispered, her voice barely a breath. Why don't you open it and find out? Her hands trembled as she tore open the envelope, pulling out the stacked pages. Her eyes widened, then went completely round as she skimmed the first page. She flipped to the second, and her face started a carnival of colors. Red, then stark white, then a sickly, gray pale. This is an actual lease agreement, she choked out, genuine shock twisting her features. A real legal lease agreement. You're trying to charge me $3,200 a month in rent. Market rate for a 2-bedroom apartment in this building, I stated, my voice calm, almost clinical. You can check the comps yourself. I'm actually being generous. She fumbled through the pages, her finger landing on the financial summary. First month, last month, security deposit. That's almost $10,000. $9,600, to be mathematically precise. Completely standard terms. You wanted a business arrangement between us? Here it is. Professional, legal, completely above board. But I'm your fiancée, she wailed. And apparently I'm your landlord now. Your exact words, not mine. You said this was your apartment, too, and you wanted clear financial terms. Here they are, spelled out in pristine legal language. This is insane. You can't actually do this. Actually, Amy, I absolutely can. My attorney drew up the entire thing. It's legal, enforceable. You have exactly 30 days. Either sign the lease and pay the full deposit, or vacate the premises. It's all in Section 2.3. Vacate? You're kicking me out. I'm giving you a choice. You wanted to treat our home like a cold business transaction? Fine. Here's the transaction. Sign and pay, or find somewhere else to live. Free market economics, right? But we're supposed to get married in 8 months. I walked slowly to the kitchen counter. My hand went to the engagement ring on my finger, the one that matched hers, the one I'd saved 3 months for. I slid it off, slowly, deliberately. It made a distinct little clink as I set it down on the granite. Are we, though? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. Because people who are getting married don't usually try to extort rent from their partners in their own damn property. That's when the dam broke. Sobs. Huge. Heaving, mascara running. Ugly cry sobs. She collapsed, the lease pages fluttering to the floor, wailing about how I was cruel, twisting her words, how she never meant any of this seriously. You literally told me, word for word, that you were charging me rent, and I needed to pay you for the privilege of living in my own apartment, I said, unwavering. Did I misunderstand? It was just. Rachel said I should, she cried, grasping at straws. Your sister. How interesting. Maybe your wonderful sister can help you come up with the $9,600. After all, she's got all the answers about how committed relationships should function, doesn't she? 2 divorces worth of wisdom right there. That made her cry even harder, louder. But I was done. Absolutely, completely finished. She had crossed a line you simply cannot come back from. The weekend was a tense, agonizing silence. She holed herself up in the spare bedroom. Endless phone calls with Rachel and her mom, punctuated by muffled sobs. Monday morning, her mother, Linda, showed up. A sweet woman, usually, but clearly here as Amy's advocate. We need to talk about this like reasonable adults, Linda said. I completely agree. Where is your daughter? She's in the bedroom. She's devastated. The spare bedroom, I clarified pointedly, in my apartment, that I own. Linda sighed. You're really going to be like this? Like what? Accurate about property ownership? Being hostile and petty by not letting your daughter extort me? I paused. Ma'am, with all due respect, your daughter demanded I pay her $800 a month to live in my own home. Now, when I've presented her with a legal lease, she's playing the victim. I've been remarkably patient. She's scared. She feels like she has no security, no stable future. Linda pleaded. Security? She was getting married to me in 8 months. In a home I owned outright, no mortgage, no debt. She had complete security and a stable future. She personally threw it away because your other daughter convinced her she deserved to extract money from me. Linda's face flickered embarrassment, shame maybe. She knew. Rachel has always been strong-minded, she started. Rachel told her sister to shake down her fiancé for rent money. That's not strong-minded, Linda. That's financially delusional. And now your daughter's going to end up single and potentially homeless because she listened to terrible advice. You could still fix this, she urged. Just tear up that lease, forgive her mistake, move forward. And then what? I asked, the words cold and hard. We get married next year, and she tries this exact same stunt again? Maybe with a house we buy together? Maybe with my retirement accounts? Where exactly does it end? She had no answer. She has 27 days remaining, I stated firmly. Sign the lease and stay as a paying tenant, leave voluntarily or wait for formal eviction. Those are her 3 options. The next 2 weeks were pure psychological warfare. Day 11, I came home to find my locked filing cabinet ransacked. Tax returns, bank statements, the actual deed to the apartment all moved to random places. She claimed she was deep cleaning. I eventually found them stuffed in a cardboard box hidden. She was clearly searching for something. Day 13, Rachel started a barrage of hostile texts. Long, rambling paragraphs about how I was financially abusive, controlling, manipulative. I screenshotted every single one. Didn't reply. Day 15, I walked into an unauthorized dinner party. 4 of her friends, in my living room, eating my food, using my dishes. She was trying to establish some sort of community presence, thinking it would make her harder to remove. I calmly walked in, assessed the situation, and started methodically carrying the couch cushions to my bedroom, one by one, in stunned silence. "What are you doing?" one of her friends finally squeaked. "Removing my furniture from the common area. You're all welcome to sit on the floor if you'd like to stay." The party evaporated in 5 minutes. Day 17. She accidentally broke my $250 Breville espresso machine. Just shrugged it off. Things break sometimes. "No problem," I said, my voice dangerously even. "I'll just add it to your running tab." "What tab?" she asked. "The running total of things you're going to owe me when this is all over. We're currently at $37,800 in free housing equity you haven't earned over 14 months, plus $250 for the coffee maker you just destroyed. Should I keep going?" Day 29 arrived, the final deadline. I had spent the last 2 weeks being meticulously, infuriatingly calm and documented. Every single interaction recorded, every outburst captured on my phone, every attempt at damage photographed. My evidence folder on my laptop was massive, over 200 photos, 6 hours of audio. Trevor had filed the formal eviction notice on day 22. That morning, I was eating my usual breakfast when she finally emerged from the spare bedroom. She looked like death. Greasy hair, dark circles under her eyes, wearing the same sweatpants for 3 days straight. "I'm not leaving this apartment," she stated flatly, defiant. "I know you legally can't make me." "Actually, Amy," I said, looking up from my toast, "I absolutely can. The sheriff's department will be here at exactly 2 p.m. this afternoon to physically remove you if you're still present. I filed all the proper paperwork last week." Her face went utterly, chillingly white. "You're having me arrested?" "Not arrested. Removed. There's a significant legal difference. You refused to leave voluntarily. You deliberately damaged my property. You harassed me in my own home for 2 straight weeks. This is the natural legal consequence." "I'll tell them you abused me," she spat. "You can certainly try. I have 2 full weeks of thoroughly documented evidence showing you broke my $250 coffee maker, deliberately locked yourself in a room with thousands of dollars of my electronics, through unauthorized parties, went through my confidential personal documents and threatened me repeatedly. You have what exactly?" The fact that I asked you to either pay market rate rent or leave my property. They'll believe me anyway. They always believe the woman in these situations. Maybe initially, I conceded, but they'll also review the actual evidence. And the evidence clearly shows you tried to extort your fiancé for rent money in his own home, then refused to leave when he ended the relationship. That's not domestic abuse, Amy. That's a breakup with an entitled squatter. She started crying again. At this point, I was completely immune. You've ruined everything, she sobbed dramatically. We were supposed to get married, have this amazing life. You ruined everything yourself, Amy. You, with your sister's terrible advice, your ridiculous demands, and your fake tenant rights. I gave you a free home, a genuine partnership, a stable future. You wanted more money instead. Linda showed up around noon, quiet, efficient, armed with cardboard boxes and packing tape. She didn't say a word to me, just helped her daughter pack. Rachel, of course, was there too, and she had plenty to say. You're an absolute monster, she hissed venomously. You completely destroyed her. She destroyed herself, Rachel, I shot back calm. You just helped with terrible advice. How can you be so cold? So heartless, she wailed. How can you tell your own sister to shake down her fiancé for rent money, and then act surprised when it backfires completely? No answer, naturally. By 1:30 p.m., they were gone. I stood in my doorway, watching them load the final box into Rachel's SUV. Amy never looked back. Not once. Linda did, though. Just a brief second. And in that look, I saw something unexpected. Genuine embarrassment, maybe even deep shame. She knew. She'd always known her daughter had pushed too far. She just couldn't say it out loud. The aftermath? That engagement ring. I demanded it back immediately. At first, she refused. Rachel naturally insisted it was rightfully hers. So Trevor sent an official letter explaining that in our state, an engagement ring is a conditional gift and must be returned if the engagement ends, especially if the recipient is at fault. 3 weeks later, it arrived via certified mail. I sold it back to the jeweler for $4,200. Took the loss. The total cost of Amy living here, rent-free for 14 months? Approximately $44,800 in lost housing value. The destroyed coffee maker, $250. Locksmith for new locks, $185. Trevor's legal fees, $1,200. Worth every single cent. People ask if I miss her. Honestly, I miss who I thought she was. The version of her that existed before Rachel poisoned her mind. But maybe that person was never real to begin with. What I definitely don't miss is walking on eggshells, wondering what new ridiculous demand would come next. Feeling like my own home wasn't truly mine. The apartment feels different now. Quieter, yes. Emptier. But also completely, unequivocally mine again. Truly mine. For the first time in 14 months, I can sit on my own couch in my own home without worrying someone's going to hand me a bill for the privilege. A few days later, an unknown number texted me. It was Rachel's husband. Hey man, heard what happened? My wife's been in my ear about the exact same stuff for years now. Charging me rent, demanding equity. I told her if she ever actually tried it, I'd do exactly what you did. You absolutely did the right thing. I didn't reply, but I saved that message. Rachel's own husband, plotting his escape. Some patterns, I guess, are universal. As for me, I'm genuinely okay. Still processing, still adjusting. Still finding little reminders of her hair tie, a phone charger. But mostly I'm just relieved. Because if she'd pulled this stunt after we were married, with joint assets, commingled property, legitimate legal claims to my home, it would have been 100 times worse. 1,000 times. She actually did me a massive favor. Showed me exactly who she was before it was too late to escape cleanly. And all it cost me was a coffee maker and some legal fees. Oh, and about that ring. It wasn't just a ring. It was 3 months of careful saving, a deliberate choice. I went to a real jeweler, handpicked the diamond. The jeweler, an older guy, probably in his 60s, talked me out of something flashier, emphasizing quality. He showed me how to look at a diamond, the cuts, the clarity. When I picked it up, he gave me a small wooden box, wished me luck. I told him I planned to propose on Christmas morning with her family. He smiled, said it sounded perfect. I never got to do it that way. She kept dropping hints, hinting I wasn't serious, so I proposed at a normal dinner 3 months later. Should have seen that as a red flag, honestly. When I took it back to him after everything, he recognized me instantly. Didn't ask questions. Just looked at my face, examined the ring, gave me a fair price, shook my hand. Said he was sorry it didn't work out, that he'd seen it happen too many times. That conversation stuck with me. My mom called last week. She'd heard through the grapevine. I expected her to be upset, to tell me I should have been more understanding. Instead, she just said, "Good for you." Just like that. She'd always liked Amy, but had noticed the subtle red flags, the comments about money, keeping score. She said my dad would be proud. My dad, who passed too young at 58. He always taught me to stand my ground, not to let people walk all over me, just to keep the peace. That meant more than she could ever know. Work's been better, too. More focused. All that mental energy I wasted on Amy's moods and Rachel's drama, it's mine again. My manager even commented I seemed sharper, more on top of things. So that's my story. And honestly, it still feels a little surreal. But it made me wonder, what would you have done in my position? Have you ever had to draw such a hard line in a relationship? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I really want to hear what you guys think.